What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and I am joined by two of the best to ever do it, regardless of whatever it is. They're just the best at it. Jurg and Dame, fellas, how are we this week?
Pretty good, pretty good. It's been, active start to the week, kind of calmed down, but it's my favorite time of the week, boys. It's recording time. It's somewhat sports time. Let's go. The summer continues.
I'm doing great. It's hot outside. I went to the beach yesterday, had a good day. A little rough day at work because it was so hot, but I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here.
Nice, nice. Yeah, a lot of accuracy in those statements, fellas. It is Arizona levels of heat here in New York City, but of course, the one thing that differentiates it is the godforsaken humidity that is attached to the heat. But whatever, we're not a weather podcast, we're a sports podcast, and we talk about sports. However, not a lot to talk about in the sports world this week. There's some minor news in the NHL, but Jurg is gonna wait for it to kind of implode, quote unquote, for
Yeah.
us to actually talk about it. So we'll probably wait a week for that. Nothing really going on in the NBA. This is normal. The summer league has started, but in terms of news, nothing really. Baseball, I'm assuming nothing much because the guys would have told me. But NFL is starting soon, and to be honest, we haven't talked about the NFL in a bit. We will be talking about the NFL in the coming weeks. We'll be making our division standings predictions, all that good stuff for you guys. But that'll be coming in the future. Because I believe, football's like a month away, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the ninth.
Oh,
So
okay,
less than a
beautiful.
month.
So less than a month. All right, beautiful. In preparation of that, I have decided to take matters into my own hands. That's right. I have come up with a game, not really a game, but it's something along those lines for my two consigliaries this week. I will be putting them. There's not even a competition, but it's kind of whatever. We'll just call it a game for the sake of it. So I will describe the rules. Here we go. You fellas ready for me to get started with this?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I like the animation there. So, as everyone knows, there has been a boom in cryptocurrency in the world. I don't know how familiar you guys are with cryptocurrency, but it's not something it's not something that us three particularly specialize in. But we know what it is. There are two terms that are affiliated with cryptocurrency: bullish and bearish. Now, to put that in stupid terms like us, bullish, guys, pay attention to this. This is very important. Bullish means trending upward,
Okay.
right? High hopes. Bearish, skeptical, going downward, okay? So essentially, you're either high on it or you're low on it. To put that in the most simplistic terms, like even I'm not fully sure if that's what it completely is, but I think I've done my research enough to have like somewhat confidence in it. So if you're bullish on something, that means you're high on it. If you're bearish on something, low on it. So bull bear, bull high, bear low. Now,
Make my head hurt, bro. Just start the game.
yeah, you got to cater to the dumb people in this podcast, but see,
Quite the creative way to lead into what we're doing.
yeah,
This week.
well, yeah,
gotta give it credit.
I have to over explain because dudes are just gonna forget. So bullish high, bearish low. Now, there are a select few of NFL teams that I've decided to choose. We are going to stay away from the Titans, aka the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, the Packers. Put the Packers loosely because God knows. We're gonna not pay attention to like the Lions of the world. Yeah, so we're gonna focus on middle tier teams this week. Now, I'm going to give you guys a team, and then you guys are gonna tell me, each of you, if you're bullish on that team or bearish on that team in this upcoming season. All right? Are you guys with me so far? Did I lose you? Did I lose? Dame, are you good? Did you die?
I'm good. I'm all right.
Okay. So, Jurg, are you good?
I got it. I got it. Bull, we go up. Bear, we go down.
Yeah, there we go. So, I'm going to start with Jurg on the first one just so we could set the tone, just so Damien kind of knows what we're going with. Okay, so I have a plethora of teams here. It's kind of similar to the game we did with the NBA players in terms of like predicting who they'll go, in terms of predicting which team they'll go in a free agency.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give you a team. You guys say if you're bullish or bearish, and then you're going to describe why. Lengthwise, that's up to you, okay? So,
Copy.
Jurg, I'm going to start off with you. The Arizona Cardinals.
Whew, okay. I like this. This is a very nice team that we're starting off with. I like this. I'm gonna go bullish.
Mm.
With my thoughts with the Cardinals. I have high hopes for the Arizona Cardinals this season on what they could do. I think last season, while we saw strides with the team under Cliff Kingsbury, I think it was also pretty obvious that the health of Kyler Murray is factor number one when it comes to how that offense is going to run. Because we saw what happened when Kyler Murray wasn't at 100%. Like he makes Cliff Kingsbury's offense look usable in the NFL because a quarterback can make a scheme look pretty successful. I think there are a number of cases that we could point at, and I think Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury have proven that. That's why Cliff Kingsbury so badly wanted Kyler Murray when he had the number one overall pick coming in. Sorry, Josh Rosen, but Rosen wouldn't have been able to run this offense that Kingsbury wanted to put together. Only Kyler Murray can. So in regards to that, I am bullish on them. I liked some of the minor moves that they made during this past offseason. I like the JJ Watt pickup. Of course, I think looking back, we were a lot of us were surprised by because the Cardinals weren't necessarily the first team that came to mind when it came to the JJ Watt sweepstakes, and ultimately they were the winners there. I think adding him to that pass rush along with Chandler Jones. I know there's some issues over his contract right now, but I think everything will be fine come the start of the regular season. The two of them like leading your pass rush, that is something very, very deadly that you want to have. So I think in regards to that, the defense, when you consider Chandler Jones being there, they added Xavier Collins in this year's draft, who I think he's going to be a solid difference maker for them early on. And that defensive back crew led by Budda Baker, I think overall the defense is improved from last season. And so that transitions over to the offense and what we're expecting. And as long as Kyler Murray's healthy, I fully believe that this team has a chance of competing for the playoffs. I don't think they'll compete for the top of the division. I think we all know the other three teams just have either more experience or a little bit more refined talent. And so that's why I think the Cardinals will be above them, or they'll be above the Cardinals, excuse me. But here's the thing with this seventh wild card team now, and I think we're going to get into this as we continue the game. So I'm not going to I'm not going to explain this too much, but I think there's potential here where a couple NFC West teams, just because they don't win the division, will qualify. Because I don't see a lot of the other divisions as having multiple playoff teams, and we have 3 wild cards now, boys. So that's something very much the Cardinals can contend for. They contended for last season up until the very end, which is the first time they've been able to say that in 3-4 seasons, and I think it's the same this year. I'm gonna ride my hopes on Kyler Murray taking that next step. Budda Baker continuing to be great. JJ Watt having one more run in him, and yeah, so you got some youth, and you got some veterans all put together there in Arizona, and I am bullish on them I'm bullish on their playoff hopes here in 2021.
Good start, Jurg. All right, Dame, floor is yours.
I go with the Cardinals again. All right, so I'm gonna be bullish as well on the Cardinals. I'm be bullish on their playoff hopes, but bearish on their division hopes. I use both words there. Look at me. The reason I'm bearish on their division hopes because I just think the Rams and the Seahawks are just their rosters are way too talented for the Cardinals to overcome. I'm not high on the 49ers, so I think the Cardinals can be better than them. So I think they're third best team in that division. But with this extra week in the season and this extra wild card spot, like I do think the Cardinals have a really good chance of making the playoffs. I know Chandler Jones asking for a trade would be a big hit to their defense, but they did add JJ Watt. You have Isaiah Simmons in his second year on that defense, and he was a stud in college. So he really just needed reps, and last year was kind of his get installed into the system because he didn't really get many plays on the field. But the offense, you added AJ Green as a second receiver. That's the main thing that offense was missing. You had DeAndre Hopkins. You just needed that so you need to solidify that second wide receiver spot to kind of get the attention off of DeAndre Hopkins. You also added Rondell Moore in the draft. I know he's only 5'7" or something like that, but his vertical and his 40-yard dash were out of this world. So just adding a guy like that really helps out. And it gives them another element to that offense. And Kyle Murray, as long as he stays healthy, it's going to be a great explosive offense. So adding to their defense and adding to their offense, I think they're going to be a really good team this year, battling for a playoff spot.
All right, nice. Good start, fellas. I also am bullish on the Cardinals this upcoming season. All right, Now we move on over to our second team. Dame, I'm going to start with you on this one. The Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, man, I'm bearish on the Falcons. They did add Kyle Pitts in the draft, but they just had so many other needs that they did not need to add another weapon to that offense. They already have 10 or 11 first-round picks on that offense. You don't need to add another one. Clearly, if you have that many first-round picks on offense, there's something wrong with the offense if you're not succeeding. I mean, there's something wrong with the defense if you're not succeeding. So instead of that, they went out and drafted Kyle Pitts at 4 instead of adding the best defensive player in the draft. Whoever that may be on their board, they still didn't do it. I don't really think they did add anything on the defensive side of the ball. If anything, they lost. I know they lost a couple of players. Matt Ryan's just another year older. You could have went in like a QB route and tried to like rebuild this year, but clearly they're going for it by drafting Kyle Pitts. So just by their offense, I think got worse after losing Julio, arguably the best wide receiver in the league. And their defense, their worst part of the team, not getting better. I'm definitely bearish on them.
Nice. Jurg?
Yeah, I am. I think we're gonna agree on a good chunk of these teams, at least early on. I think the Atlanta Falcons are for certain one of those teams. I'm 100% bearish on them, as I am with quite a few teams in the NFC overall. I just like Dame said, the acquisition of Kyle Pitts, I fully understand the idea of adding him. He's a generational talent at the tight end position. I think he will, do wonders for them, obviously. And if their plan, which clearly is their plan, for Matt Ryan to continue to be the guy while for the remainder of his time there, they needed to do that because, as we saw, they ended up getting rid of Julio Jones. Getting rid of Julio is kind of like the first nail in the coffin of what is going to be a very long 2021, and I think what will likely be the official end to the old guard of the Atlanta Falcons. Because I think after this season, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Matt Ryan's contract will be slightly more palatable to get rid of come the end of 2021 and going into 2022. I don't know this off the top of my head, so if like the dead cap number is still pretty high in 2022, maybe not. But I think like this is definitively we're going to see the precipitous decline of this team, and they're going to fully, like they should already be doing it, but they're going to fully and properly rebuild and eventually try to find the quarterback of the future in future drafts. Like Ridley and Pitts are nice. Like if we're talking about individual players, I'm bullish on them. I love those two. I think Pitts will have a great year. I'm a big fan of Calvin Ridley, especially now that he'll be number one. But like Dame said, that defense is just, man, it's not good at all. Like I like Grady Jarrett. I like the acquisition of Dante Fowler Jr. But aside from that, you don't like a lot of the pieces on this team. So full bearish there. Arthur Smith, the new head coach, he's going to have his hands full going into year one with Atlanta. So yeah, the Falcons, they're going to be competing for the top pick next year. I'll say that much.
All right. Okay. I am also bearish on the Falcons. Yeah. So far, we're all in agreement. Next team up, Jurg, start with you. Carolina Panthers.
Okay, so this is interesting just based off of the fact of what are people's expectations of this team going into the season. Matt Rule is heading into year 2 now with the organization. Of course, when he was hired, he was a part of the decision making, but now a full season of seeing what the team has, a full off season now when it comes to adding more to this roster and trying to get more players that he wants there. I think, relatively speaking, I'm kind of bearish on the. I'm bullish on the Carolina Panthers. I have a little bit more hope in them to be competitive this year than most. That being said, I don't see them as a playoff team this season, and I know maybe to some people I'm kind of contradicting my point of why I'm being bullish with them. But the reason why I don't think it's much of a contradiction is because Sam Darnold is coming in and learning this offense for the first time ever. You had Christian McCaffrey, who was out the entire season, so now he's going to be coming back with Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. They added Terrence Marshall Jr., which was a heck of a pick that they were able to get. They improved the offensive line a little bit. The defense has, some solid pieces there with Shaq Thompson and Burns, Hassan Reddick, Jeremy Chin in the safety group. JC Horn was an amazing first-round pick. Like, there's talent on this team. And so I'm fully confident that they're going to be a competitive team next season. I would say like a fair record for them would probably be like maybe they could sneak in with a 9-8. Not saying they'll sneak into the playoffs at 9-8, but just saying with an above 500 record, which I think for this organization is what they've needed after these past couple of seasons, I think would be a plus. And I think they could do that. I'm going to be really intrigued overall. The X factor for future Panther seasons is, can Sam Darnold be the guy for them? Can he show a little bit of that, something that people have been hoping for since the Jets drafted him? And now he has a chance to do that with the Panthers, and there's pieces there for them to do something. So I think a very competitive Panthers team that finishes around 500, that's what people should expect. I don't think a lot of people are, and so because of that, I'm going bullish with this team.
All right, Dame. I know you're a big Panthers believer, so this is gonna be interesting. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm very bullish on Bullish is high on them, right? So I don't fuck this up,
Yes, you're
right?
good.
Okay, all right. So I'm very bullish on them. Big reason is because I'm a big Sam Darnold guy. It's not just because he was on the Jets. I thought he was really fucked over on the Jets. I thought he was put really in the worst situation possible, and he was never really put in the situation to be successful. But now on the Panthers, he has everything he needs to be successful. Do I think he's going to go game one and throw for 400 yards, 5 touchdowns? No, I do not. It is going to take a couple games throughout the season for him to get acclimated into that offense because it is a complicated offense with Matt Rule as head coach and Joe Brady as offensive coordinator. Eventually, you're going to see him get better and better as the season goes on. And you're going to see the talent that I'm talking about in all these years on the Jets, the talent that I was talking about that Sam Darnold does have, and that he just needed the right situation around him. But it's not just Sam Darnold. They added J.C. Horn in the draft as a stud cornerback. I know they lost James Bradbury last year to the Giants, and he was kind of their like lockdown cornerback. But adding a guy like J.C. Horn on a rookie contract is even better than even having James Bradbury. So they improved the offense at quarterback. They improved the defense with J.C. Horn and other pieces as well. I know they added offensive lineman. I forgot what his name was, but he's pretty solid as well. So obviously, adding protection to Sam Darnold, something he didn't have with the Jets, is great as well. And as Jurg mentioned, they added Terrence Marshall in the draft, who many thought was going to be a late first round pick. So that was a real steal there. Having him, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, and Christian McCaffrey, that's one hell of an offensive arsenal to have for a young quarterback like Sam Darnold. And just to have those offensive minds teaching him and coaching him, like I said, like I mentioned with Matt Rule and Joe Brady, like that's what I think will be the key. It's not just the weapons, but it's just the fact that when he makes a mistake, they're going to tell him how to get better and how to fix those mistakes and how to really maximize the talent that he does have. So based off, really, it's like they obviously, like I said, improve the defense, but my main reasoning for why the Panthers I think are going to be really good this season, or be one of these up and coming young teams, is because of Sam Darnold.
Beautiful, beautiful. Very, very interesting responses there. I felt a little of the streets cracking on that one because Jared kind of said bullish, but I heard some bearish cracks. Nonetheless, we move on. So, Dame, we'll start off with you on this one. Chicago Bears.
Oh God, I'm definitely bearish. This team doesn't even know what they're doing. Like they got lucky with Justin Fields that he fell and they tried to trade off for him, but like, why do you have Nick Foles on your roster? That's one. You have Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, and Justin Fields on your roster. There's literally no need for all three of these guys there. You keep Justin Fields and you keep one of the two veterans to like help Justin Fields grow. And if you don't want to start him right away, that's fine. But you're going in here and you're saying that Andy Dalton is the starter week one no matter what. And I've heard Justin Fields is cooking in training camp and all these OTAs and practices. So I don't know how you can go in and say a guy like Andy Dalton is your week one starter no matter what. This guy hasn't proven to do shit when he's played for the Cowboys last year or years before that. Like he's not this high rated prospect that just never got a chance, or like Sam Darnold just never put in a good situation. He has, but he's just not good. Um, so I just don't know why they're not giving Justin Fields a chance to be the starter. I'm not saying I'm one of those people who kind of really like rookie quarterbacks sitting, at least for a couple games to start the year, like half the season to start the year, so they could learn and watch from that veteran quarterback. But to go into the second you draft him and say he's not going to start because you have Andy Dalton as your starter no matter what, that's kind of ridiculous to me. And of course, just like I said, having three guys there when you could get value for a guy like Nick Foles. I personally would like Nick Foles on the Jets because I like having that kind of veteran presence behind that rookie QB. But I'm not going to talk about that for now. But the defense, it's good, but like, did it get better? No, it's getting older. They lost Kyle Fuller, their number one cornerback, one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Khalil Mack's just getting older, and he's not getting paid any less than he was when he was elite. Um, Allen Robinson is probably going to be out after the season. They don't want to extend him. Like, where is this team really getting better? I don't know. And that quarterback situation's fucked. Literally, the head coach is like fighting for his job this season, and he doesn't want to start the guy that they drafted 11th overall that's supposed to be a superstar. So that's why I'm bearish on the Bears.
Nice. I see what you did there. All right, Jurg.
Our show will double, and I'm sure when Chris gives his little take, we will be tripling down on the fact that we are bearish on the Bears. Yeah, like Dame highlighted a lot of the points. There is no need for Nick Foles to still be on the roster, but that's not even the thing. Like Andy Dalton is a fine veteran. He's a quality clipboard holder. He'll teach Justin Fields how to navigate certain things, maybe how to work the quarterback room, how to work, a huddle. Like, I think those are finite things that maybe Justin Fields could stand to learn from, but he can still learn that by starting from week one, and Dalton will just help him on the side. Like, kind of like Dame said, I too am a fan where it's like in certain situations, rookies do need to sit. Like Mac Jones and Trey Lance are the top two examples. Like, I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of them early on in their careers unless either drastic drop-offs of play happen in San Fran and New England or guys get hurt. Um, so like all things assuming, if Cam, like in those situations, if the current starters play fine, those guys are going to sit for a lot of the year. If Andy Dalton plays fine, unlike those two teams, it doesn't mean you're going to win automatically. Like, this is the thing with the Bears. Even if Andy Dalton doesn't have a terrible game, and I will say, like, so let's just say he puts up a game where it's like, let's say he has 250 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, right? It's not a terrible game, but they're probably not going to win that game. So, like, unlike in San Fran, where they've proven they can win with Jimmy G as a starter, and in New England, where it's like, if Cam is healthy this season and he feels all the way back, like, he could put together a game or two where he could have that stat line, but his running, makes a difference for that team. It's just, I don't know what Chicago's doing, man. Like, I've already said on this podcast, but free Allen Robinson, dang it, and I'm going to continue to push that until it finally happens. But yeah, man, like I'm so bearish on this team. I will say, like, there are players I'm bullish on. Like, I'm a firm Allen Robinson believer. I still think Khalil Mack is going to be great. I like Eddie Jackson, Goldman on the defensive line as one of their D tackles. Like, the thing is, like, when you break it down, there are players on this team I have high hopes for. I think they'll be fine. Like, this team will, funny enough, have a couple of Pro Bowlers on defense, maybe one on offense with Allen Robinson. But aside from that, there's just not a lot of hope to have. Like, if the Detroit Lions did not exist, then we all know that the Chicago Bears would be the worst team in this division likely this season, just based off how they're handling it so far. And I am bearish, so I'm going to be bearish on the Bears, but I will be bullish on the hopes that they finally fire Matt Nagy after this season if they have a down year. So there's a bright spot, Chicago. You might suck again this year, but you might get a good new head coach after this year, which, I mean, I think that's what the team needs.
All right. Okay. We're all bearish on the Bears. Put it on a t-shirt. Now, Jurg, start off with you on this one. The New York Giants.
Oh, okay. I did not think we were going to leave the NFC North yet. Interesting. Okay, so
By the way, this is like a lot of this is out of order, to be honest.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I thought we were going by division. Ironically, we were going by division at first. I'm like, oh, this is very well planned. So
No.
The New York Giants, like, I don't know, man. Like, the thing with the Giants is that, what are your expectations for them? Because they're not going to be the worst team in the division. We all know who that crown goes to.
Jurg, I'm assuming the moves they made, they're aiming for playoffs. That's what I'm assuming.
Okay, so if that's the expectation, then no, hell no, I'm going full bearish on this team. I don't think.
Well, all right. In general.
I don't know. Man, I'm not a Daniel Jones fan. I'm still going to go bearish. I just don't like him as a starting quarterback on a team. The fact that I will still never forgive the fact that they wasted the 6th overall pick on him. He was going to be there in round 2. You could have gone with someone else in round 1, like good old David Football Gettleman making those moves. It's funny because, like, you could argue the drafts ever since the Daniel Jones one, he's actually done a pretty good job with. Like, you actually could make the argument. Well, Andrew Thomas was a good pickup. I actually have high hopes for him. Like, again, this is a case where if we're talking about specific players, I have high hopes for. Like, I like some of the free. This is the thing. This is kind of like the opposite of the Panthers, where it's like I'm bearish on the fact they'll make the playoffs, but I'm bullish that they'll be competitive. With this team, I'm bullish on some of the moves that they made, but I'm bearish that it's going to lead to anything significant for them. Like, I like Kenny Golladay, relatively speaking. I think he's the receiver that offense need. They needed someone to make those contested catches because all last season they just had guys to stretch the field. On the defensive side of things, they picked up the corner from Tennessee, Adoree Jackson, who I could not believe that the Titans actually cut in the offseason. I actually really liked that acquisition. I think they have a great defensive back crew. But aside from that, like, there isn't a lot to like on this team. I think Saquon, the rookie luster, has more than faded off. He needs to prove that he can be healthy now and make a concerted effort to actually help this team finally, especially because I believe I know they're probably going to they did pick up the 5th-year option, if I'm not mistaken, or are going to, but this is a contract year, basically speaking, because 5th-year options, like, I don't know what the guaranteed money is like, but I'm sure, yeah, they could get out of it, if Saquon doesn't have a good year. So this is a make or break year for Saquon and like what he could potentially do in terms of resetting the running back market next year. But aside from that, like you're telling me to pin my hopes on Daniel Jones finally becoming a good quarterback and leading this team and finally winning games against teams that are not called Washington Football Team, like that's not going to happen. I don't think this team is ahead of the Cowboys. I don't think they're ahead of Washington. And as such, like third seed is kind of what I expected of them. But for me to think that they'll be as competitive compared to the Panthers, no, not at all. So I'm bearish on them.
All right, Jurg chose violence on that one. Dame, what do we got for the Giants, buddy?
I'm go bearish. This is not biased. I just don't believe that Daniel Jones is a good quarterback, and that's what it comes down to. I do think they have an elite defense, and I do think it's one of the best in the league, especially after adding Adoree Jackson to a secondary that was already stacked with Logan Ryan and James Bradbury and Jabril Peppers. You re-sign Leonard Williams. That defense is stacked from top to bottom. Um, but it just comes down to the quarterback play. Like you could have all these weapons with Kenny Galladay and Saquon Barkley. And Kenny Galladay is already hurt, and I just don't think he was ever a number one receiver. So I do think they massively overpaid for him. But at the end of the day, like I said, it does come down to the quarterback. And Daniel Jones, no matter the weapons you give him, maybe if he's not good, he's not good. And I just don't think he is good. And it also comes down to the division they play in. I know this division sucked last year, but I still think they're the third best team in that division at best. They're nowhere near the Cowboys. I don't think they're better than Washington either. Washington was better than last year, and they didn't have as good as a quarterback. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be better for them than Alex Smith was last year, just based on health and just based on the fact that he throws it a lot more, and adding a guy like Curtis Samuel will help Ryan Fitzpatrick. So just them being the third best team in a division like that, that's pretty weak already compared to these other teams in the NFC. I'm bearish on the Giants.
All right. Okay. A little consensus between our two contestants. Dame, We're gonna start off with you on this one. Rebounding off one of.
Wait, hold on. Chris, you've given your opinion on a couple of these other teams. So how do you feel about the Giants?
Well, at first, I thought I mean I was leaning towards Bullish because I thought they made a lot of good offseason moves. Clearly, they're in trying to like win now mode, but I just think I'm with you guys. The Daniel Jones, I feel like holds them back. Like they could have had Justin Fields this last draft, right? I feel like then they traded out once they found out Devontae Smith. Once they
Yeah.
found out the Eagles moved up, and then they just traded out. So
That was the pick that like the Bears traded with the Giants for that. Like it got him an
yeah,
extra first, but it's
you
like
you literally could have gotten Justin Fields. So I feel no sympathy. I'm gonna go bearish on them. I
okay.
can't give an expertise analysis like you guys, but yeah, bearish on them. Dame, I'm gonna start off with you. Rebounding off the NFC East, Washington football team.
I am bullish on the Washington football team. I know I kind of mentioned already the stuff that I liked about them, but like I said, they added a better. I'm gonna just repeat it. They added a better quarterback in my opinion, just because he's healthier, and I think he's a better thrower than Alex Smith was. You kind of open up the playbook a lot more with the guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, who really slings it. They added another weapon to offense. You already have Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, Logan Thomas. Like those are decent enough weapons to help a QB. And adding a guy like Curtis Samuel, who you could line up on the outside, you could line him up in the slot, you could line him up in the backfield. He could be on special teams. He could be a real weapon for them. So just that offense is definitely improved. And that defense is like we already know how great they were. They drafted another guy in the first round at the linebacker position. I forgot his name, but regardless, that defense just got better, and they're all young. So just another year of experience is just gonna get them even better than they were. It also helps that they're in that division. You never know, they could even play for that. They could compete to win the division as well with the Cowboys if Dak is hurt for any amount of time, or just the Cowboys become the Cowboys, and we know what that means. Like they just don't play up to expectations. So I'm really bullish on the Washington football team because of their additions they made to this offseason and because of how good they looked last year.
All right, Jurg.
I'm right there with Dame. I'm definitely bullish on this team and what their expectations and hopes should be. Dame went into everything with the offense, and I think the acquisitions of Curtis Samuel is definitely good. I think Adam Humphries is fine. Logan Thomas will continue to be good, and Sam Cosmi I think was a nice quality addition to the offensive line in the draft. But I mean, I'm going to go into this defense. You're telling me the front four is Chase Young, Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, and Montez Sweat. By the way, Matt Ioannidis is the fifth guy there. So those five guys are going to be very talented, and they're going to wreck some offensive lines in these games. Like Dame kind of alluded to, it was Jamin Davis was the first round pick for the Washington football team this season, and he surged up boards late. I'm a very massive fan of him. I think he's going to be quality. I think he's going to be a very good linebacker for them for a long time to come. I think he's going to provide great energy there as a rookie. And then the defensive back core, it's solid. It's not spectacular. They could stand for a little bit of improvement there. But Cameron Curl is a fine safety. Landon Collins is still dependable, and Kendall Fuller as their number one corner. That's not bad. It's really not. And I'm a special teams guy. Trey Way and Dustin Hopkins for the brand, baby. One of the better kicker punter duos in the league. So I am bullish on expectations, but and I've kind of been a theme with all of my takes here. I'm bullish on expectations, but I'm a little bit bearish on some of the parts of their schedule that's concerning, especially the middle part here. So in week 6, they take on Kansas City. In week 7, they take on Green Bay. In week 10, they take on Tampa. Their bye week is week 9, by the way. In week 10, they take on Tampa. Week 11, who knows, depending on how Carolina plays, maybe that could be a game where the Panthers are competitive. And in week 12, Monday Night Football, they face off against the Seattle Seahawks. That's going to be a stretch of 5 teams within us in 6 games that could really give them a run for their money. So I'm very concerned about that portion of their schedule. It really, that how they do in those 5 matchups, I'll say 4 because we're not sure about Carolina, right? So, but how they do in those 4 matchups really depends on what your thoughts should be on this team, right? Because then their last 5 weeks, this is where you can be bullish again. It's Dallas, Philadelphia, New York. I mean, come on. Like that, there's no easier finish to a season than that. So I'm bullish for the hopes on this team, but I'm very bearish on that middle of the season because that portion of the schedule concerns me there.
All right. Well said, Jurg. Nice little attention to detail there because consensus was bullish, but yeah, good idea to have some type of bearish thoughts in there.
I
So we
think
move on.
I think with all these is the thing, like we're giving it our overall thoughts. Like I'm for sure bullish on this team. I think they could potentially win the division, but there are certain aspects of all these teams that we've talked about so far and the ones that we're going to talk about, like there are certain things that vastly need improvement, right? So that's why, like with all these teams, I'm trying to hit on both ends.
All right. Beautiful. All right. So we move on over to Jurg. I'm going to stick with you. The Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to say this, and here's why I'm going to say this, because it's all about expectations with this team. I will be a little bit bullish on this team if Joe Burrow is back, and he's going to hopefully stay upright this time. And I'm not bullish on, their playoff. Heck no, I'm not bullish on their playoff hopes. I'm not even going to consider that for them this season. But just the idea that this team should finally show some improvements under Zach Taylor. I think Joe Burrow made Zach Taylor start to look like a semi-competent coach last season. I think a lot of people have been very tough on him, rightfully so, ever since he's been hired. He hasn't proven to be the best hiring. A lot of questions about him. But if Joe Burrow is back, you're telling me Joe Mixon at running back, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins is a phenomenal trio of wide receivers. The offensive line, they needed to improve on. They've made very slight upgrades. I kind of wish they would have gone with a certain different player, especially because I mocked them. But, I'm not petty about that. Not at all, Cincinnati. And then the defensive side of things, they made like another addition or two in the offseason. They got Trey Hendrickson, who I think, I don't think he'll have the 16 sack season or 15 sack, whatever he had last season, but I still think there's a chance he could hit the double-digit mark. DJ Reader and Ogunjobi are a good tandem at D-tackle. And the defensive back crew is relatively solid. Von Bell, Jesse Bates, Chidobe Awuzie, and Trey Waynes. Like, there are some things I like about this team. They should be better than last season, point blank. They are not a team. They should not be an easily top 3, top 4, top 5 bound team this season. They really shouldn't be. If Joe Burrow is healthy, this team should start to make the move upwards in the standings of, okay, what were they last year, boys? Like a 4-win team, give or take? I forget how many wins they had off the top of my head, but like if they're like a 4-win team, was your thoughts of them last season, or even worse? They got to be like a 6-7 win team this year, like just to show that there's progress under Joe Burrow there. So I'm going to say bullish on progress for this team. Like they need to start showing us something.
All right, Dane.
I'm gonna go with bearish on them. I know obviously they're not gonna. No one's expecting them to be a great team, but even just based on expectations for them, I'm still bearish on them. I just don't think Joe Burrow's going to stay healthy again this year, just based off the fact that they didn't improve this line. And I've been hearing a report that he just doesn't look comfortable in training camp and stuff, and that offensive line is a work in progress and all that stuff. Obviously, losing AJ Green wasn't that big of a deal because he wasn't that big of a difference maker for Joe Burrow, and you added Jamar Chase, the guy he played with at LSU, which is definitely going to help. But on defense, adding Trey Hendrickson is great, but you did lose Carl Lawson, who was your best defensive player last year. So that really hurts that defense. But again, like most of these things that come that for me, it comes down to the quarterback, and I just don't see how Joe Burrow is going to stay healthy for 16 games, unless like the offensive linemen they do have make some major like adjustment and they just become better than what they were expected. This is probably the worst offensive line in the league, if we're being honest. So, and a guy that's coming off a torn ACL with MCL damage and meniscus damage and whatever other kind of damage he has in that knee, like he needs to stay upright as much as he possibly can. And if he's getting hit as much as he did last year, like it's just not going to go well for them and not going to go well for Joe Burrow's future either if he keeps getting hurt.
Yeah, I hope, man. I just hope they don't rush Burrow. To be honest, I mean that knee is really fucked up when you look at the injuries that he sustained, man. And I think I could speak for all of us. We're all Burrow fans. I mean, I don't know if we're fans, but like we definitely like the kid a lot. So
We hope he doesn't get decapitated for the rest of his career. We could say
yeah,
that.
well, could have drafted Penei Sewell, but you went with Jamar Chase, which isn't a bad pick, but still not the right pick. All right, move on over to Dame, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Talk to me, bud.
Oof. Ooh, this is the. Let me go with Bearish. I'm gonna go Bearish. Like obviously, just based off the expectations. Trevor Lawrence is amazing. Obviously, I want him as a Jet, but like I don't think their defense is that good. They're looking to trade C.J. Henderson, the guy they drafted, I think, 2 years ago in the first round, in the top 10 pick, a cornerback. I don't know why they're looking to trade him. He's on a rookie deal. It's not like he's looking to get paid or anything like that. And I know he played pretty well for them last season. So I don't really know why they're trying to trade him. It makes no sense to me. That's already a bad sign. Also, just based off what Urban Meyer said about Travis Etienne, it's a running back they drafted in the first round out of Clemson. He said that he wants to use him exclusively as a third round back. I don't know what you're using a first round pick for on a running back to use him only on third downs. That makes no sense to me. So Urban Meyer one is giving me bad vibes based on that already. I'm not too high on their defense, although it can get better, but it just doesn't make sense to me why you're trying to trade one of your young cornerstones on the defense when he's still on a rookie deal and not looking to get paid. And their offensive line, it's not as bad as the Bengals is, but it's just still not good. Like Trevor Lawrence in college, like he had all this time protection at Clemson with a great offensive line, so he looked great. It's gonna be interesting to see how he looks like when he has to deal with pressure because his offensive line isn't that good. So that's still to be seen. I do think Trevor Lawrence is still gonna be great, but I do think it's gonna take some time for this team to really get started and be better.
Jurg?
So this is going to go. We haven't really talked about this individual a lot on the podcast, really. Urban Meyer. I am not a fan of Urban Meyer, and so now immediately Ohio State fans are not going to be happy with me. But hey, that means more views on the video, so thank you, Ohio State fans. So I can't believe I'm saying this actually though. Like, here's my thing: I'm going to be bullish on this team because I will give Urban Meyer this. Whenever he shows up somewhere, immediately like they're going to play better than last season. They're not going to be the worst team in the division because the Houston Texans royally win that, even with Deshaun Watson coming back. The other 21 starters on that team are, well, 20 because their left tackle is the Laramie Tunsil. Yes, so left tackle is fine. The other 20 starting positions on that team, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of, especially after back-to-back off seasons of Hopkins and Watt gone. And assuming that they have their starter back day one, then I still don't think Houston's going to be that great. So based off of that, I'm bullish. But also, like, I think Trevor Lawrence, if we're talking about what we want to see, like, we're going to see the flashes of why he's going to be there. Like, Jacksonville is going to matter again for the first time since the year where they made it to the AFC Championship game. And I know it sounds like that year was pretty recently, but that was a couple years ago at this point, right? So if I'm not mistaken, that was the year that the Patriots made it to the Super Bowl to face off with the Eagles. So since then, we've had 3 Super Bowls happen, right? Like 3 full years have passed by then. In the NFL, 3 to 4 years is a pretty long period of time, all things considered, with how physical the game is. And when you consider the fact that that roster has been completely deconstructed ever since, heck, the management core, the coaching staff, everything is gone since they made it to the AFC Championship game that year. Ain't that crazy, huh? Trevor Lawrence is immediately going to make them, watchable. They're going to be mentioned now on ESPN every single week, at least once or twice, just because of Trevor Lawrence by himself. I like DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault. I really do like them, so I think they're fine. Like Dame said, again, this is a team that if we really broke it down, like position group by position group, there are some we're bullish on, some we're bearish on. The offensive line definitely needs work after the season, but there are some veterans there that I think will be able to help hold it down, at least for the short term. So I think it's relatively fine there. Defense, yes, again, they need to add more talent there, but I like Shaquille Griffin as the number one corner on this team. I really hope that they do figure things out with CJ Henderson, because I think he could be, I think now being the number 2 on this team is going to be a lot bigger of a help for him with Shaquille Griffin being there now. The linebacking core of Joe Sherbert and Miles Jack, I'm a big fan of. I know Jack had a down season, but I just like the talent overall and what he's shown on the field in the past. And ultimately, the pass rush, I think, is going to be a pretty big concern, but K'Lavon Chaisson heading into year 2, Josh Allen heading into year 3. I just like a lot of pieces on this team, and I think based off of that, they're going to go from a completely irrelevant, dead in the water team to they're going to be, mentioned again, and for some right reasons this time, hopefully. So just based off of that, I'm actually going to be a little bit bullish on their 2021 season. Now, like I've said, not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to do that, but from what they were last season to what they'll be this year, 100% bullish.
All right. Now we continue with Jurg for this next team, the Denver Broncos.
Ah, man. I struggle so much with Denver, man, because there's a lot of different players that I like on that team. I really, really do. Cortland Sutton is a very talented wide receiver. He could be the next Allen Robinson for me, where I'm praying he goes to a new team, depending on what happens with the quarterback situation there. And I like the defensive back crew on this team. I really, really do. They added Kyle Fuller there. There's so much good talent there. There's so much good talent on that team, but I got to go bearish on them. I think their ceiling for this season should be the 3rd seed in the division. I'm just not that big a believer in either of the quarterbacks. Drew Lock, I'm really starting to sour on. The one thing I like about him is that he wears a shooter sleeve when he plays quarterback, and I want more young quarterbacks to have that. And I honestly, I like Teddy Bridgewater. I like Teddy Bridgewater a little bit more than most people do, but I don't think he's going to be that massive of a difference maker for this team. So just based off of that, again, there's some decent pieces there. I think they had an all right draft, relatively speaking. More so because they drafted Patrick Surtain, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, like I said, I really love the defensive back crew here. I like them. I like Cortland Sutton. The running back situation is good, but just so many other factors on this team leads me to not be the biggest fan of them. 3rd at best in the division, and for a division where we already know who the top seed is going to be, that's not really saying anything. So yeah, I'm bearish on Denver for this year.
Dame?
I'm gonna go Bearish as well, but I really, really, really like their roster. I just don't like their QB. Like Jurgen said, they added Kyle Fuller on their defense. Already having a defensive kind of head coach helps that as well. They have all these weapons on offense with Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant, Melvin Gordon. They drafted Javon Williams out of North Carolina, who's an explosive back, who's probably going to take over that starting role once Melvin Gordon gets hurt, because it's just inevitable. It just comes down to that quarterback. It's just Drew Lock is just, I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's good. And it's kind of hard for me to say he's even decent. But I just don't think he's bad. It's hard. But I just don't, I think they're a quarterback away. If they get in on this Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers trade sweepstakes, whether it's in the middle of this season or next offseason, that's when I think they can really make a push because of the team they do have around a quarterback. It also sucks for them to play in the division they do play in. Obviously, they're not going to be better than the Chiefs. I don't think they're better than the Chargers. And, are they really better than the Vegas Raiders? I don't think so. I think they're the worst team in that division. But say the offseason comes and they make a move for a big-time quarterback, say Aaron Rodgers, that's when I think they skyrocket and they could even be competitors to the Chiefs.
All right, beautiful. We're on to our, I guess, last batch, if you will. I think I'm gonna predict on what the consensus might be on this one. But Dame, the Las Vegas Raiders.
God. I'm gonna go Bearish. They just are what they are. I don't think they really got better this offseason. They didn't get worse. There's gonna be the same mediocre team they were last season with Derek Carr at quarterback. You kind of reach your ceiling with Derek Carr as quarterback. Um, they added Kenyon Drake to the running back room, which is kind of curious to me because I think Josh Jacobs is an absolute stud. It's kind of weird for me that they paid Kenyon Drake what they did to come in there. They still don't have that number one receiver. I know they tried the little Antonio Brown experiment, but that didn't work out. But they still haven't got that true number one receiver to give to Derek Carr, whatever quarterback they're gonna have in the future. Their defense still sucks, and they didn't do anything to make it better. So I don't know what they're gonna do on that side of the ball when you have an offense that doesn't score 30 plus points a game every game. John Gruden is cool, he's fun, but when you have a team like that with terrible drafting and terrible talent around the team, I have no like other thing to say other than be bearish on them.
Jurg.
I am fully bearish on this team. The only point that I will disagree with Dame on is the fact that I think there were a couple of improvements made to the defense. They added Yannick Ngakoue. Corey Littleton will be there for year 2, and they added Casey Hayward, and they drafted Trevon Moehrig to help out the defensive back room. So I think there are some improvements on that defense, and I think they could be a little bit better here and there. But that being said, I am fully bearish on this goddamn team. Derek Carr, I have a prediction, boys. Derek Carr will be traded this season to the witness protection program because that dude is going to be looking out for his life on a week by week, game by game basis. Dear Lord, I feel so bad for him. They purged damn near the entire offensive line this season, aside from Colton Miller, who he finally played pretty well, and they rewarded him with paying him a pretty penny on the contract extension. Okay, fine, you had to keep someone. And the other guy they kept was Richie Incognito. Need I say more? Center, no confidence. Right guard, no confidence. Right tackle, I feel bad for Alex Leatherwood because I actually have high hopes for him. I think he'll be a pretty good pro, but he was drafted relatively early, and I just think he's going to be thrown into the fire here in this division where Joey Bosa is in this division, Von Miller is in this division, and the Kansas City, like, I know there's not an elite pass rusher there, but still, man, like the kid's going to struggle a little bit. Derek Carr is going to be laid on his back week after week. He's going to get a good look at Vegas Stadium from his back on that field throughout the year. I think if you're talking about, complementing architecture, the first person I'm going to after the season is Derek Carr because he's going to get a good look of how the stadium really is every single week. He's going to see how good the bleachers are there, the cheap seats. So, yeah, I just don't have any confidence in this team. John Gruden and his Spider 2Y banana and whatever plays he has in his playbook can get the fuck out the NFL. I am so annoyed with this guy. And the only reason he's not going to be fired is because they have that contract, and Davis, like, he's going to owe money if he fires him, and he's not going to pay for a guy to not be there, at least for a coach. So, all in all, like, this team is just a mess. They are just a complete mess. Like, David Carr is going to have to console his brother a lot this season because Derek Carr is about to really understand what his brother went through in those Houston Texan expansion years, man. So, yeah, it's bad. Fully bearish on them.
Jeez. All right. Okay. Move on over to. I guess you could say that Jurg is a little charged up. Jurg, we got the Chargers next. What do we think?
Yeah, Chris is just killing it with the transitions today. I love it. I'm bullish on them. Yeah, like I'm such a big Justin Herbert believer. I think of all the coaching hires that were like the new coaches that were hired this past offseason, Brendan Staley is one of them. Like, he'd be towards the top on most lists, if not arguably the top guy to most. I think with him, he is a defensive mind. The Rams players loved him. Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey sung his praises. I know Sean McVay is probably going to miss him. Granted, I still think their defense is going to be fine. Like I said, they got 2 Hall of Famers there. But I think Brendan Staley, like when Hall of Famers speak highly of a coach in that manner, like they did of Staley when he left, that means something. So I think he's going to be a difference there to help the defense. I think there will be games where they overperform. There's talent on this defense, don't get me wrong, but if Bosa and Derwin James, if those guys are healthy for a full now 17-game regular season, look out, because those are 2 of the best players at both of those positions when they're fully healthy. So I'm confident in them. They have a very young linebacking core. They got a trio of linebackers there on the Los Angeles Chargers that I'm a fan of. I think that's a pretty young team defensively that I think could make some good strides this year. And all in all, Justin Herbert as the quarterback, we saw the talent he has. They just need to manage the game a little bit better. If they had better time management, clock management, game, all-around management, they could have won a couple more games last season. They really could have. And so now you're telling me you upgrade at the head coach, your quarterback is going to get better in year 2. Yes, there's film out on him now, so in certain situations, maybe defenses will find him out a little bit. but I think Justin Herbert is going to respond well. Keenan Allen being there, Mike Williams, if he's hopefully healthy, is just a red zone target at least, so there's some scores. They beefed up that O-line with Lindsley and Slater. I loved it. I love what they did during the offseason. I liked all the changes they made. And again, Money Badger as their kicker. For the brand, boys. For the brand. But overall, I'm fully bullish on this Chargers team. They are, to me, they're definitively the second best team in the division, without a doubt.
Dame?
Very bullish on the Chargers. Of course, this all goes back to the quarterback play. I think Justin Herbert's an absolute superstar in this league. He's going to be one of the best quarterbacks, maybe by the end of this year. As Jurg mentioned, a lot of their games last year came down to like time management and clock management that they've really like messed up. They could have won so many more games if they just knew how to work the clock. It comes down to coaching, and now they have a new coach, so maybe that will help them. But they definitely could have made the playoffs or been right on the edge of the playoffs when it came down to it if they really managed their games better. Their defense isn't crazy elite, but it's good enough when you have an offense that's led by Justin Herbert. You still have Keenan Allen, you still have Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. Their line's all right. It's not terrible, but it's good enough when you could get away with stuff like this when you have a guy like Justin Herbert. Yeah, but overall, I'm just very bullish on them because it just comes down to the quarterback. Like I said, when you have a good enough team around them that's not bad, like say a guy like Joe Burrow, you're going to be successful.
Okay. Dame, we're going to stick with you. The Miami Dolphins.
Oh, I'm bullish on the Miami Dolphins. I'm a big Tua guy, and obviously they added a guy like Jalen Waddle to help Tua in the offense. He played with him, obviously, at Alabama. They added Will Fuller on offense, too. I really like what they had with Mike Gesicki at tight end, Devontae Parker at wide receiver, Myles Gaskin at running back. They improved the line a little bit. It's nothing crazy. And their defense is already elite. They just have to work out this thing with Xavier Howard, this contract situation, because he's one of the best corners in the league. But I really, really like their defense. It's one of the best. And when, like I said, Tua, I think this year they're going to really expand that playbook and let him play to his strengths. And with all these weapons that he has, he's really going to be able to do that like he did at Alabama, where you really saw him be great, what he does. The coaching, I've always liked their coaching. Brian Flores is one of the best coaches in the league. So just combine all three facets of the team there. I really like where they're headed this season.
Jurg?
So I am predominantly bullish on this team because I like the idea and the potential of what they can do. And I also think when you look at their schedule, relatively speaking, it's a pretty easy schedule, actually. Their hardest games this year are the two times they're going to face Buffalo, but they're going to be done with Buffalo after week 8. They face them in week 2 and week 8, and then they don't see them again. And then after that, in terms of teams that finished above 500 from last season, after that second Buffalo game, it's Baltimore, it's New Orleans, and it's Tennessee. And honestly, with those teams, like we know Baltimore will be good. Tennessee, they'll likely be good. New Orleans is not going to be good by then. So it's a pretty relatively easy schedule on what they have to do to get there this year. And like Dame said, like I have been a massive Tua fan ever since he took over in the national championship game as a freshman and led him to the win. I'm a Tua guy for certain. But I'm a little bit scared of this team because I think we're starting to slowly see like not significant cracks, not cracks that'll cost them too severely. But the Kyle Van Noy release to me is still very much a question. I didn't understand why they let him go. He was the leader in that locker room last season, and I think they're going to miss his presence at times this season in that linebacking core. Yes, the defensive back core is fine, but then every other position group on defense, they need to consistently prove how good they are. Right? Like the defensive line is good. They'll have some games, but then they'll have their off games. The linebacking core will be fine, but again, I don't like the fact that they let go of Van Noy. They handled Xavier Howard already. They converted some stuff into bonus money. They gave him some incentives now. So I think that situation is all settled. But I think we're slowly starting to see like it's not paradise in Miami like we thought it was last season with Brian Flores. And don't get me wrong, I still like Brian Flores as a coach. He's easily the most successful of the Belichick disciples, of the last decade. Like that can't be argued. But the way that the Van Noy situation went with this Xavier Howard stuff coming out, I don't know, man. I'm just like that part of me has me a little bit scared of this team. It does. But overall, just from a talent perspective, and like I just rolled out, the schedule is pretty relatively weak. I have to be bullish on them. Like they have to be a playoff this team this season. damn, that sentence was screwed. They have to be a playoff caliber team and likely a playoff team this season. They just have to be. There's no way with the Jets are still going to need another year or two. The Patriots could potentially be down depending on how they are. The Bills are the only definitive team here. Like you need to hit a jackpot this season. You got to make the playoffs because if you don't, the outstanding rebuild that Flores and Chris Greer have done so far, it's going to be a lot of questions on how much they're really going to produce down there in South Beach.
All right, Jurg, sticking with you, buddy. Minnesota Vikings.
Yay! Bearish. If we're talking about coaches that I fully expect to get fired after this season, then Mike Zimmer I definitively see as, he's going to be finding himself on the way out if they don't make the playoffs this year. And, spoiler alert, I don't have high hopes of the Minnesota Vikings making the playoffs this season. I just really, really don't. Quarterback Kirk Cousins, like, for his career, he's average and slightly above average at best. He's not phenomenal. Yes, the weapons are there offensively. Like Dalvin Cook is a great running back. Led the NFC in rushing yards, if I'm not mistaken. I think second or third in the NFL because we all know Derrick Henry was King Henry last season. And then Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Irv Smith Jr. I think is a good young tight end. Like that's all fine. But their offensive line is just so bad. Like Pro Football Focus was not kindly grading their O-line last season for good reason. Like that offensive line needs a lot of work to be done, and they didn't do enough or a lot or really much to give me a lot of confidence in that they've done enough to rebuild it. And then like the defense is good, but that defense is aging, man. I just talked about it in regards with the Jaguars and how their defense was entirely gone. You got some guys that are like the ages will kind of shock you when it comes to this defense. Michael Pierce is slowly approaching his 30s, if I'm not mistaken, or just a little bit above that. You have the rest. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, he's approaching his 30s slowly but surely. Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr, Harrison Smith is in his 30s. Patrick Peterson is in his 30s. Like like if we're talking about the 2014 season, this Minnesota Vikings defense, I'm all for it. Like 2014, 2015, let's go Vikings. Like you guys may be able to challenge Green Bay a little bit. But I don't think this version of Minnesota can do that. I don't think there's enough here. They're not a great team to me, and I think Mike Zimmer's going to get fired after this season. So therefore, bearish.
Nice, Dame.
I'm definitely bearish on them as well. The team just sucks. You have Kirk Cousins with his politics. He's probably gonna sit out games once he gets COVID, or he's gonna be around someone with COVID.
Jeez.
So that's gonna hurt the team as well because I don't even know who their backup is. But Kirk Cousins isn't good to begin with, but I know his backups definitely aren't good either. The defense isn't good either. The coach sucks. Like this team is just a disaster, and they play in a division with the Green Bay Packers. They're lucky that they play with the Lions and the Bears as well, and two other disastrous franchises. So they might finish second, but they're definitely not going to be over 500. But they're a dumpster fire from top to bottom. So I'm definitely bearish on them.
Oh man.
All right, violence was chosen from both these fellas. Now we move on over to our last two. Dame, I'm going to start with you. The New England Patriots.
Ooh, I'm gonna go bullish. Reason being is because I do like what they did They really added a lot of talent this offseason. I think it kind of straps them moving forward with all their cap space because they did spend a lot of money. I know they added Matthew Judon. They added both tight ends at a premium price. I don't know how much that's really going to help their offense, but it definitely does help because Gianno Smith and Hunter Henry are two of the best tight ends in the league. Their defense will always be good no matter the talent they do have because Bill Belichick is so good at what he does on defense. But just adding guys like Matthew Judon and these other guys they added, it will definitely help. They did add a lot of receivers as well, but these receivers aren't really guys that really separate themselves. They're kind of like middle of the pack guys that you add when you have like that number one and number two guys. That quarterback situation, who knows who's going to start. I'm personally rooting for Cam Newton to start because I do think he deserves a chance. I know last year he was really good until he got COVID. So I'm wondering if COVID is what affected him that second half of the season where he really struggled. So hopefully he gets to start the beginning of the season with these new weapons that the Patriots did bring in before they give over the reins to Mac Jones. But overall, I am bullish on them because they are the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick is still there, and they added a lot of talent this offseason.
Jurg?
Yeah, I'm bullish on New England because, I expect them to compete relatively well for a playoff spot this season. Now, I'm not saying they're going to definitively a playoff team. Obviously, that's going to be safe for when we actually see everything play out, or when our division predictions come in a couple weeks and how we feel they're going to do. But I think they're definitely going to be more competitive than last season. I think, like, the thing with their contracts, if we're talking a little bit long term, a lot of the deals they signed, the guaranteed money is pretty low on. So they can actually get out of some of these contracts after this season if they choose to, and then even after 2 years, within 2 years' time. So I think Belichick has put together a team that can compete within the next 2 seasons and be better. And if they add the right guy at quarterback eventually, or if it is Mac Jones that ends up being the guy, then they could be a playoff caliber team again. But right now it should be Cam Newton that gets the job. I like Cam, like Dame. I think COVID did a number on him last season, and I could be wrong, but I think there was like some reports of maybe a potential injury towards the end of the season. Maybe I'm misremembering it. Maybe I'm just confusing it with a Carolina Panthers season for him. But I just don't think Cam's body has been right. And I think now finally he has a chance. Because bear in mind, he was a late addition last season. And then everything with COVID, he didn't get to properly learn the playbook like he should have. Like, I think Cam could do a lot better this season. Aguilar, Myers, and Bourne are fine. Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith are going to help Cam a lot. And offensively, the offensive line is pretty good. They have 3 out of 5 starters returning from last season, and then they got Trent Brown back, one of the many offensive linemen that the Vegas Raiders sold off for pennies on the dollar. And the trio of running backs that they have, I'm a fan of. Damian Harris, who could have a good year. Sony Michel, who I'm not going to give up on, at least at the goal line, he'll be good. And then James White, he's the do-it-all back for him. And then the defense, they got Kyle Van Noy back, which I was a big fan of. Dante Hightower's going to be back. Remember, 7 starters on this team, 7 or 8 starters on this team were out last season. Like, they opted out last year due to COVID, right? So, and a couple of those guys were on the defensive end of things. Lawrence Guy's going to be back. He'll get a couple sacks. Matthew Judon's going to help that defense with Hightower, Van Noy until he gets traded. Otherwise, Stephon Gilmore, Gilly Locks is going to be there. J.C. Jackson had a Pro Bowl caliber season last year, and he'll put it on another one. And then you have the veteran presence of Devin McCourty and the mind of Bill Belichick, man. Come on now. So I'm bullish on the Patriots. I definitely think they'll be way better than last season. I think they're going to compete. I think a lot of people, they're very down on Belichick right now. I don't think they should be. Like, this is still one of the brilliant minds in football, and I think he's going to shock a lot of people with how this team does this season.
Okay, now we fly on over to our last team. Jurg, we're sticking with you, the New York Jets.
Oh man. So the Jets,
Don't be afraid.
The Jets are interesting for a number of reasons, because obviously this team changed, right? Like, they made significant changes to the squad this past from the offseason. Got a fresh, shiny new quarterback there. They added a little bit offensively. I think the offensive line, like, I liked Elijah Vera Tucker as a selection. I really did. There's some good stuff that they did defensively. Carl Lawson. And their head coach is Robert Saleh, who I was a big fan of some of the former defensive coaches that were hired from last season. I think Saleh's great. He's bringing with him the younger LaFleur brother to New York. He's going to be the offensive coordinator. Like, there's a lot on this team that I like. But that being said, I still think they're going to be the worst team in the division, so I'm just going to be bearish on them for this season. I think I have to be bearish because it's a rookie quarterback. If Sam Darnold had still been on the team, then maybe that could have been cause for let's see what he does. But now a rookie quarterback like Zach Wilson will have his good games, but then he's just going to struggle. Ultimately, at the end of the day, when your quarterback looks like that he was the kid on the cover of our 8th grade math textbooks growing up here in NYC, there's some cause for concern there. There really is. And I know Zach Wilson, I think a lot of people are putting, like, kind of doubting him a little bit. I think he'll be I think he's talented, obviously. I think we all do. And I think he's going to have a pretty solid rookie season for the most part. But just this team does not have anywhere near the amount of pieces to compete for a playoff spot. Division is out of the question automatically. Like, they just don't have it. So I'm bearish on them for this season. Future years, it all depends, because there's foundational pieces here that I really like. But as you said, Chris, we're talking about 2021. And if we're talking about 2021 for these teams, especially the New York Jets, I got to go bearish.
All right, Dame, cap it off, buddy. Jets.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately have to go bearish as well. Obviously, I'm a big Jets fan. I'm a big believer in Zach Wilson and Joe Douglas and the team that Joe Douglas has built. But it's just not their time yet. Like, everyone's still young. Like, this team isn't going to go from whatever record they were last year that they gave them the second pick to now being some great team. Like, I do think they're going to be a top 5 in the draft, top 7 in the draft again next year. But I do think they're going to be one of these teams that hopefully They're gonna be one of these teams that are competitive in these games. They are competitive in these games and aren't really getting blown out like they were last year, where they were really a joke. Zach Wilson, he's not gonna. I don't think he's gonna win Rookie of the Year. He's gonna have these superstar rookie numbers like Justin Herbert did last year. But as long as he shows potential and this defense, who I think is really improved with Carl Lawson, who's been really tearing up training camp and OTAs. With Robert Saleh, head coach, who obviously improves the defense just by his presence being there. The offensive line is vastly improved with Elijah Vera Tucker, Morgan Moses. So overall, this team is definitely improved, but it's just not their year yet. Like hopefully, years to come, it will be, and Zach Wilson develops into the QB they hope he is. But as of right now, I'm definitely bearish on them.
Dame getting a lot of business calls there.
Yeah, my son's on the call right now.
Is that the Jets front office?
Is that
Dame?
Joe Douglas, bro? Jesus. All right, Jesus. What a way to cap it off. Yeah, that'll do it for our bullish or bearish episode. You know, why not keep up with the times? You know, cryptocurrency's at the height of the world right now, so you know, why not integrate that with sports, since there's like really no news to talk about. So, gentlemen, y'all did a phenomenal job, especially on this last minute notice on how to play the game. Hope y'all had fun. I know I did, listening to your guys' takes. It was awesome, and I hope everyone who was listening enjoyed it as well. You know, and hopefully we'll do more of these going forward. See if this gets views, but probably not. Yeah, so that'll wrap it up for this week. Jurg, Dame, thank you so much as always. You guys just hit it out the park. But again, the sun is hot. I expect that as always. And to everyone listening, appreciate y'all. Jurg, where can they find us on the socials?
You can find us at SomeWhat.Sports on Instagram. We just hit 70 followers, so thank you to all that have followed us so far and that will continue to follow us there. And like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's somewhat space and then sports. A little bit confusing, because just how YouTube search engine is. You could sometimes struggle to find channels, but that's what it is for us, so you can find us there. And the WordPress too. There's going to be articles coming out, relatively soon. Just ideas are churning in our minds, guys, and they'll all be coming out soon. Summer may be coming to an end very soon, but Somewhat Sports Summer of 2021 has been strong, and we're going to finish strong.
Yeah, wow, what a way to end it there, Jerk. Jeez, I'm about to run through a brick wall. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. And until next time, peace.
Peace.